I'm your host, Aaron Goins, and I started this meetup because when I was in the military, no one in my circles talked about real estate. A lot of times we talk about what we call thrift savings plans, debt, stocks and bonds. And a lot of times when military people deploy, you see a lot more Dodge Charger pickup trucks on the road instead of appreciating value items like real estate. So I started this meetup for people to learn and start building generational wealth for them and their families. So I am very, very excited for our guest speaker. Um, I met our guest speaker and heard her on my main man, Lawrence Laddie's meetup on Tuesdays. And I said, man, she has to be a guest speaker on here. And then I start following her on LinkedIn and start following all her posts that she put out there, how she was impacting so many people. So Nicole Pendergrass, how you doing? Welcome to All In on Real Estate.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here. Oh, there's my brother, Wesley
Okay.
Dunlap.
We got something for him. We got something for him. What's up, cutie? How you doing? Don't be crying. Don't be crying on the meetup. Come on now. Don't be crying on the meetup.
Yeah, hubby was trying to block and keep her in the room, but you see, she was crying and having a whole fit. So she's out here now.
It's called persistence.
But
It's called
you
persistence.
and mommy? Yeah,
It's called
I
persistence.
think kids have way more persistence than adults sometimes.
Yeah, that's
Like
facts.
if you
That's
you
facts.
try to outlast a kid, yeah, it failed for me plenty of times.
Yeah, I just talked to my son about that. He's 15. I talked to him about being persistent. He wasn't persistent enough about a subject. So but that's another
Mhm.
time, another day. But welcome and let's get started. So um, one thing about you is that you have a great, great story, and I don't want to I know we talked about on so many other podcasts and meetups, but can you just do an overview of this? A little bit why you got started into real estate.
Okay, so honestly, I'm just gonna gloss over because I could really get into the weeds, and this would be a 3-hour presentation just telling all the details of everything that's gone wrong in my journey. But it started really because um, my dad passed away, and that's really where my whole outlook on life and my thought process of I need to be doing something that I love. I don't want to be stuck. You never know. Life's not promised. And I just need to do something that is beneficial for me and gives me freedom. That's really the entire journey was based off of trying to earn freedom, like financial freedom. And so right after he passed, I actually ended up going to, because I had been looking for what that thing was going to be. And everything that I liked doing was really more kind of hands on, creative, artsy kind of thing. I like that kind of stuff, but none of that paid. And I was living on my own. I had bills. I can't work for free as an internship, because I have a rent to pay. I got stuff to do. So I ended up going to a 3-day conference with my husband because his sister couldn't go. And so he ended up inviting me instead. So I went to the 3-day conference. It was a Rich Dad Poor Dad conference. So I think I went to that conference before I ever even read the book. And from there, I completely got sold. This is going to happen throughout the night. It's okay. I have learned to avoid, ignore it as I'm talking. If you guys can drown it out. But yeah, in any case, so then that's when I realized, like, oh my God, regular people can invest in real estate, and it's not just the big boys with all the money and all the finances, and I don't have to have like $1 million. It's not for these firms and companies that just have that capital to deploy and they can get into real estate. Like an actual regular individual person can do this, and it can really change your life, right? So I was sold. I was all in. And then oh, no pun intended, that was kind of good though. But
Good.
but then, so the third day I brought my mom, just to show her about it because I wanted to open up her mindset too. And I ended up wanting to sign up for the program, and she kind of helped me with that. So that was because I didn't have money up front to do that. And honestly, like I still owe her that money. So that was like the longest loan ever. But I definitely plan on paying her that back plus more. So I went, okay, now this is failing. So I'm going to turn off my, oh, all right. I don't need a virtual screen anymore. Let's just, It's not too bad back there.
Yeah, it's not
You
bad at
guys can't
all.
see. You guys can't see the junk. So okay, get rid of that. Yeah. So all right, let's. This is already getting long. So let's speed this up. So I went to the 3-day seminar, and then I signed up for the coaching, and from then that was 2010. So I've been, doing this and studying for a long time. I have a lot of knowledge. I basically explored all the different strategies because I didn't know which way I wanted to go. And of course, when I started, I was basically maybe a couple years out of college. So I had ruined my credit in college, of course, because most college students do that. You don't know the importance of credit. And I also didn't have money. I was still working in an entry level job, and I was still renting in an expensive city. I was in New York City. So most of my paycheck is going towards rent. You don't have that flexibility. So even within the program, I had just moved into my own apartment. And that's like the symbol status symbol of like, you made it, you're a young adult, you're living in your own place, you don't have to have roommates because you can afford to live by yourself, blah 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 blah, right? This is right when I'm going through the rich dad classes where they talk about your income versus your expenses, and really dialing in and making sure that your expenses are less, and you can either decrease expenses or increase income, so you can use that excess savings to put into investments, right? So I'm looking at my list, did my itemization, all my expenses. I'm looking, all right, what can I get rid of? I can't get rid of a $35 cable bill. What's that going to do for me? Even like my cell phone bill, I probably was $50 at the month at the time. Like I can't even find anything cheaper. And even if I did, so that's saving me $100 a month. What am I going to do with that? That's not going to change my life. I don't think that's sufficient. So I ended up moving in with um, a apartment with three other women. So there was four of us in an apartment. So I went from living by myself, being proud of my apartment. I had only had it for a year. I was about to sign the lease. And right the time they sent me the lease renewal, it was a $75 increase, right when I'm trying to see how I can decrease my expenses. And I said, what? Is this even legal? Can you raise the rent $75 at one time? Like, that's insane. I pay my rent on time every time on the first of the month. How are they going to raise my rent by $75? But like in my head, I saw what was happening because I had been studying real estate, and I knew about multifamily by that point. So I saw that a new property manager, like somebody new, had bought the building. I saw that they were trying to increase the income of the building because they were offering like storage for a certain price per month and this and that. So I knew that was coming. That should have been logical, but in my head I was still shocked when it happened to me. And so that's when I said, you know what, the only thing to do is to move. So I started looking for a room for rent and ended up moving in with, like I said, three other females. So it was four of us all together living in this apartment, but my rent got slashed in half. So then I was able to like start saving or start paying off like credit card debt. I was going through credit restoration programs and all this stuff. And so I just was basically working on that foundation from that point on. I had started the process of wholesaling because that's what they tell all newbies, is to wholesale first because you don't need money and you don't need credit to do it, right? So at first I was doing it on my own. I was walking neighborhoods because I didn't have a car. I'm looking at addresses. I'm talking to people who's sitting on the porch like, oh, what's happening with this house over here? Because it looks, disheveled and the grass is grown, and all the clues and everything you're supposed to do. And then I incorporated a couple of friends. I got a couple of friends on board, another girl that I had met at a real estate meetup. And so we all started working together. We met every week, every Tuesday after work for 2 years. We had the LLC, we had the business name, we had the logo, we had the cards, the business cards, going to meetup, passing those out. We went walking for dollars. We put up bandit signs at the middle of the night. Like we did all the steps and all the motions, all the stuff that you're supposed to do. And we never closed a deal in 2 years of just spending a lot of money on just going to events, to learn, to network, and just all those foundational pieces of what you're supposed to have to run a business, because you're supposed to treat everything like a business, right? And so that's what we were trying to implement, and we still never did a deal. And I have so many hindsight is 2020 kind of reasonings for why that might have been. I'll go into that later if anybody is interested or has a kind of question. But so the next step was, I had already joined the New York City RIA, because that's what they also tell newbies to do, is to join your local RIA. And so I did that, networking. I was there every month, however often they had their meetings. And the RIA sponsored different trips, sometimes to different markets, sometimes just for property tours and things of that nature. So at one point, we did a trip to Detroit. And I went on that trip, and almost everybody who went on that trip and met with all the professionals in the industry. We met with property managers, we met with attorneys, we met with lenders, and all those things. We toured neighborhoods, we toured houses. We saw what was happening economically in the city, where there was billions of dollars going into the downtown area. And there was, I think Quicken Loans had their headquarters there. So there was a lot happening there. Even though it was still a rough city, we saw the potential, and we decided, all right, let's go ahead and jump here and try to invest here. So we all pulled in our money. We actually started with $5,000 each. There was like 20 of us. So that's $100,000 if you think about it. And with $100,000 in Detroit, properties are selling for a few grand, right? So we bought 4 properties at the tax out auction. I think the most we paid for any one property was $17,000 because that was listed online. It wasn't from the tax auction. The other 3, we paid like between $5,000 and $8,000 for each property. And the rest of the money we saved to use for rehabs and things of that nature. So we did that, went through the whole process, managing from afar from New York City. Nobody was from Detroit. We were just trying to leverage the professionals we had met in that market and basically use that to, our bigger goal was to basically house special needs populations. So we were starting where we could. We did renovations and we got normal tenants in there at first just to get that cash flow and momentum starting. And then our shift and focus was going to be to special needs populations. It's Detroit, so there's a ton. That's a whole webinar by itself. So I'll just move on. So that basically disintegrated. We ended up disintegrating. Is that even the word? Whatever, dismantling the LLC for that venture. And we also at a loss. So we basically lost money on that. We sold all the properties, we got sued in the process. There's so much stuff that happened in the Detroit market. And at the same time, like right when the Detroit venture was ending, I ended up starting to look for my own property. And that's when I found a 3-family house that I actually, some of the tactics I had learned during my wholesaling era, I used to try to find a 3-family house. And I don't think I looked at anything on, I might've looked at a few things listed online, but maybe it was just like the price point wasn't right or the condition was horrible. So I ended up doing a direct mail campaign to 3 and 4 family properties in the Bronx. And I sent them around 4th of July because I tried to be a little more strategic than just sending out yellow letters, because that's what everybody did. So I wanted to stand out from that. So what I did is I found 4th of July note cards that had like American flag on it, sent them in red envelopes, American flag, stamp, all that, so that it looked like 4th of July kind of card. So everyone's going to open up a card on the holidays, right? So I ended up finding the person I bought from was actually an investor who was flipping the property, and I'll put flip in air quotes. But in any case, he flipped the property. He was helping me out. That's what he liked to tell me, that he was helping me out. But there's so many other additional like ulterior motives to that situation. But I ended up closing on a 3-family house. And at first it was super rough. I had a few $1,000s worth of fees with utilities at the very beginning that were just not situated correctly. And then about 1.5 years in, I had to start eviction processes on one of the tenants because they had not been paying me for about 1 year by the time they got kicked out. And New York City is very rough. So I filed eviction in like November of maybe 2016. And by September of the following year is when the marshal finally came and physically removed the tenant from the house. So she did not leave until the marshal came and moved her out. And I had to have a locksmith guy there, like my maintenance guy, come that same day at that same time while I was there to change the locks, so that, she would not be able to just like squat. So that is, and from that point on, I basically, London, what are you doing? From that point on, I basically just got caught up in life, and I was learning how to be a landlord, learning how to manage a property, learning how to be a construction manager, basically, and deal with all repair requests and keep the property functioning, and just all these things that go with property ownership that you just don't realize as a tenant how much you're responsible for as a landlord until you're the one that owns the building and something's wrong. And it's like, well, who's going to fix this? Oh, that's me. I'm going to fix it. Like, I have to find somebody to fix it. I have to get these systems in place and do all of that. So it is very eye opening. And basically, during that time, I ended up getting married, had my first kid. That was like a whirlwind. And then when she got to about like a year to a year and a half, I started getting kind of used to the rhythm and everything. And I think that was probably like 3 years into ownership at that time. So I said, okay, I need to jump back in because I was super active going to events and networking and just being involved and just being in the mix of what was happening in the real estate scene and just like trying to progress my position and my portfolio, my knowledge, and all of that. So I said, okay, it's time for me to start jumping back into to everything, getting back into the mix. So by then, I just started doing a ton of research on strategies of the wealthy because at that point I'm like, all right, I know I'm going to start again and I know I want to build something big. I don't know what that is and I don't know what that looks like, but I know there's wealthy people out there who use certain tools and certain strategies that the mainstream does not know about. And I know that it's kind of is frowned upon on the mainstream because they want it to be selective for certain people to know about. And I'm like, somebody has to know about this information. Like, it has to be out there somewhere. So let me find it. So I'm researching and doing all this stuff and thinking of the different strategies because I debated between just doing normal multifamily versus doing like residential assisted living versus like, some other strategies. I'm like, okay, which way I'm going to go? Because either way, I want to have all this in my portfolio someday, but I need to start and be focused and not spread myself too thin by trying to do too much at one time. I wanted to start with in a focused manner. And then after I build up some reputation and portfolio in one area, then I can start diversifying and adding more things to the plate and to my portfolio. So I started going to some meetups, multifamily meetups. I started reading a lot of books about like wealth building and there's this book, The Wealthy Code, The Banker's Code. So I heard a lot about being the bank and earning money as the interest as a lender, because then you actually have first lien on the property without having to do all the work and all that stuff. So I got a lot of information, and I learned about the bank on yourself policy and starting life insurance that you can actually use as a vehicle for retirement and a vehicle to borrow from yourself for different projects instead of borrowing from the bank. And so I was very interested in that. I read probably like 4 or 5 books on that. I talked to like 5 or 6 different operators because you have to go to a specific agent who can open up the policy in a bank on yourself manner, because otherwise it's just going to be a normal whole life policy and you won't accumulate cash as quickly. So the way that they do is that you can put a bunch of cash in up front, infuse it, and now you have access to that almost immediately to borrow against and just use for projects. So I was interested in that. I went ahead and opened one up. Actually, you know what? I'm skipping a step. I didn't open it right away. What I did was I started thinking about refinancing. So I heard about another strategy where you can refinance into a HELOC, a first position HELOC. Normally, a HELOC is second position, or you get a second mortgage or something like that on top of your normal mortgage. I heard about this strategy where it helps you pay off your mortgage faster. So instead of 30 years, you could pay it off in like 10 to 12 years, but you have to be super disciplined with your finances and have like a certain amount of excess per month to put towards the principal and all this kind of stuff. So I said, you know what, that's a good idea. I do like that, but I like better the idea of I pay onto my principal and I can pull back out from my principal whenever I need it. So to me, it was about flexibility and freedom to access my finances whenever I needed to, or whenever an opportunity, because I didn't know what opportunities are going to come in the future. And I don't want all my principal to be locked up in my house if I'm trying to pay it off quickly so I could get to zero. That's not really my goal. And I saw like the bigger picture. And I think because I read a bunch of those books on banking and finance and stuff, that I really understood why a first position HELOC would be so powerful. So I did refinance. It took a long time and a lot of banks I had to go through, but I basically refinanced into a first position HELOC. That gave me access to a lot of capital in my property because the Bronx had appreciated significantly. So I used that capital for a few things. So I said, this is going to be, I'm going to spread this apart. It wasn't a lot, but it was, you know what, I like being transparent. I like giving people real numbers so you can get a real feel for how things, operate, and have real examples. So I bought my house, my 3-family house, at 505,000. I did FHA, so I only put like $17,000 down, and it was probably around like 22,000 with closing costs, attorney fee, and all that kind of stuff. So to put down $20,000 for a $500,000 asset is pretty good, right? And then I was living for free because the other 2 units, even though one tenant stopped paying for a little while, when they were paying and when my 2 parking spots were paying, it covered everything and gave me like a couple $100 extra cash flow per month. So I got to live for free. So that was the big financial change in my life, buying that house, even with all the headaches that I had to deal with along that time. So then I was saying, then I did the refinance. So the refinance, I had bought at 505. Now when I refinanced it, I bought in 2015. In 2019, when I did the refi, it was $700,000. So that's about what, $160,000 higher, or no, almost 200, like 195 higher than what I purchased it for in 4 years without me doing anything to the property, just from appreciation of the market. So I can't even say I was super smart. I bought in the Bronx for like other logistical reasons. That's where my fiance was, and when we got married, and I was priced out of Brooklyn when I was looking for houses in Brooklyn. So I basically got forced into the Bronx because of price point, and it worked out for me. So with that 700,000, I was able to pull like 50 from the HELOC because they'll only refi you, let you go to a certain loan to value. So I think I have like a little less than 75% loan to value, because of my debt to income capped what my refi. I didn't quite get to that 80. But with that $50,000, now I was able to play with some things. So that's what I used to put some money into my whole life insurance policy when I opened up that. So I opened that, and then I put a extra cash infusion into it because I knew I would have access just to pull it right back out. So now it's growing in the life insurance company, and I can use it to invest in an asset. So that's why I wanted to kind of double dip as much as possible. And then I also took a portion, I invested passively in somebody else's real estate syndication for a multifamily building out in Houston. So I put some money into that. And then I also joined a multifamily community. I joined the Jake and Gino community, which is basically mentorship, coaching, a whole education platform around multifamily. And so I was able to take that little bit of money and spread it apart in like a bunch of different buckets. And then I started like, all right, I'm going through the process. I'm learning. I'm doing everything I need to do. I basically held on to that 3-family, moved out because at that same time, I ended up having this one who's bouncing around on my lap here. And so we needed a bigger apartment. So we moved. That place now, because I was living for free, the entire rent from that first floor apartment now we use to subsidize our rent here. So we do pay a little bit, but it's definitely way less than we would have been paying because we have that subsidization from the 3-family house. And then I started with Jake and Gino, and I started going through all these motions and finding my market. And then COVID hit. And then I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm losing momentum. I can't let this happen. Like I just got the ball rolling. And so I said, you know what? I gotta go in deeper. I have this community, but I need somebody closer. Like I need something like on a regular, everyday talking type of thing. I believe strongly in the power of mentorship and guidance in a community. And even if you have to pay for it, like sometimes when you pay attention, right? So everybody wants the free stuff, but that's not always where you're going to get the most value because there's a lot of tire kickers out there. And so the people who know what they're doing, they don't want to offer things for free because then they don't want their time is super valuable. Everybody's time is super valuable, but some people waste their time more than other people. And if you're trying to be very strategic with how you spend your time and how you grow, and you have to grow your business, help other people, and have your personal life and time for your family. So your time is very strategic, and it costs to get the people who are successful and are where you want to be, for them to take time out to kind of teach and mentor and bring you along, because they don't want to waste their time with tire kickers. That cost is really just to show them that you're serious and that you're really trying, you're for real about it, right? And that you're not just going to say go to a bunch of classes and then not do anything with the information, because that's another problem. Lundy, say hi. No? Okay. That's another problem, is that a lot of people go to class after class after class and they never take action. They're just perpetual learners, which you should be a perpetual learner because you never know everything. But a perpetually learning without action is basically a waste of time. You have to start implementing what you're learning. Otherwise, you're going to be in the same position that you're in today tomorrow, right? So you have to, action is the huge key in implementation of any of these things. That's why as soon as I found out a lot about these various strategies, as soon as I was able to, I was implementing whole life policy, refinance, all this stuff, like joining these groups. As soon as I was able to, I was implementing, because I don't like to learn all this information and sit on it, because then I feel like I'm wasting the information. Like, why did I spend my time trying to find out these strategies if I was just gonna know it and not use it? To me, that just feels like I'm dangling hope in front of my face and I can never grab it, because I'm never moving. The action is what moves you forward towards that carrot, right? And if you don't move forward, then you're just going to be stuck in the same situation. So I ended up, because I wanted to keep going further, I didn't want COVID to slow my process. I ended up joining an additional mastermind on top of the other community that I had already joined. And so from that mastermind, that is just, it's like insane. We have like a private Facebook group and we message, and there's so many people in it now at this point. But even before, when it was still getting off the ground, there was just constant messaging back and forth, like, oh, does anyone have like a lender in this area? Does anyone know somebody investing in this area? Has everyone ever heard of this? Like asking questions, and people saying, oh, well, I just had this experience, let me tell you about it, because this and this, that. And so you're just learning, or I read this article, I listened to this podcast. So it's just like a constant exchange of information and resources and assistance, like on a daily basis. And if you don't look at that group for a day, you're coming back to like 300 messages. It's really insane. It's like how much of a change and commitment everybody has to seeing everybody else grow and succeed. Oh, and some from that mastermind is where I really started really networking. And so I joined that mastermind in the spring, early summer of 2020, right in the midst of COVID. And I just was mastermind because then it was easy, because you could just be on Zoom. And I had a new baby, so that was easier for me actually to just be able to get on Zoom calls or phone calls all the time, and nobody could meet in person anyway. So it wasn't like you felt like you were turning down a coffee date or something. So I basically met and Zoomed and phone called, and I would talk to one person and they'd be like, oh, okay, I think you should talk to so and so over here. Then I talk to that person and they say, oh, I think you should talk to so and so over here. So I just basically bounced around just from referrals from people I were talking to, that who I should talk to next. And that's how I found my partner in the 6-unit deal. So I found somebody who was also investing in the area that I was investing in my market. And we had a few calls. We hit it off good. We clicked. So we said, okay, that's something that I feel like we could start looking at some deals together. And this deal came on market. It was a 6-unit deal, and I saw it because I was signed up to the different lists for marketing. And I kind of saw it. I looked at it. I said, okay, that looks like a good deal for me to analyze for practice on my underwriting, right? The next day, he calls me and says, yo, this deal just came on market. Do you want to do it with me? And I just thought about it. He had already owned property in the area. He already had a team set up. He had his property manager who was vertically integrated with like a construction company. He had a lender. He had all this stuff already in place. All I had to do was step in, because guess what? I could take the money out of my whole life insurance policy and use it as a down payment on the building. And that's exactly what I did, because I didn't even know that was going to happen, but I knew it was possible. And I knew if an opportunity came, I wanted to be able to have access to that capital. And I did have access, and I used that money as a down payment on the 6-unit. We split it 50-50. We're 50-50 joint partners now. And we are basically now in the position of just rehabbing all the units, increasing rents, because rents were really down by like $200 or $300 each. And that's when we bought it. And already we're getting higher rents than what I figured we would get back in December. We closed in December because the market, COVID is just like exploded the market, especially in these secondary areas that are not too far from major metros. My market is right in between like Philly and New York. So it's a great area and it's really going crazy. Even with other multifamilies, with single families, everything, there's a lot of appreciation. So the plan with this 6 unit is to basically finish the rehab, which we have 2 units that are right at the end of their rehab right now. We actually just got an application for one of those units already. And by the end of the year, we only have one property, one unit that has not been rehabbed, but we may still just go ahead and start the refinance process, because now I can pull that money back out and now have that and use it for another venture. So that's basically where I'm at right now. I'm just still in the middle of turning over the 6 unit and getting it repositioned, increasing the value on that. And then the plan, like I said, is to refi, take that money out and roll it into some other properties. I also am kind of toying with the idea of selling my 3 unit, because there's a ton of equity there that I think I'd be able to capture, and that I could put into other deals. And so some of those deals will be passive and some I'll save for whatever opportunities come from me on the GP side as well. Just because I'm in a group and I have access to so many operators who have massive deal flow and they're good operators. And I know who's good because I'm in these, the mastermind groups with them, and I see what they're doing on a regular basis and how they talk and how they think. So I get to know them better than I think a normal limited partner would get to know the operators of their deals. So I basically have, a lot of places that I could place that money, at least to grow for me while I'm still looking for my own deal sources. The last thing I will add to that is, in this time frame, about last fall, I started really trying to hone in and get clear about how I wanted to give back. I've always been interested in all this information that I'm learning and researching and reading a ton of books about, and I'm gathering, and even from the other people I'm in groups with, and I'm learning from people who are successful and who are experienced in the field. And I want this information to be out there. I want more, especially people of color, to be in the real estate field and to actually like have our money grow and build that generational wealth that we are really lacking right now. And so that's really one of my big whys, in addition to the family, is really helping my community gain capital and change our mindset on what wealth is, and building wealth and how to do that, and thinking outside of the box, which is very hard for a lot of people to do. And so right now, that's where a lot of my social media posts come, and a lot of the information I give out there is really to just open up our mindset, let people know that there's other things that are possible outside of what is shoved down our throats, basically by like Wall Street and traditional financing techniques and strategies and retirement accounts and all of that, that there is another way. And even if you're not comfortable jumping all in, at least you should diversify. At least you dip your toe into other areas, see how it is. And then from there, you can decide, okay, what's true and what's not true, and how am I going to handle my finances going forward? So I created my company, Noir Vest Holdings, really to focus on helping the underrepresented uh, individuals, professionals, minorities, like the economically disadvantaged, anyone who's in that boat where, you're looking for that answer and you can't find it or you don't have access. I want to make these deals accessible to people who normally wouldn't have access. A lot of operators, their minimum to invest in a passive deal is most of the time like $50,000, and sometimes it's higher, just depending on how experienced they are. Because honestly, it's easier to raise money from people who have money and aren't going to be holding on to it so tight. And if you have, you know, $50,000, if that's your only thing, your savings, how likely are you going to put that whole thing in one deal, right? No. And even if you do, you're going to be checking every email every day, like, oh, what's happening with the deal? Oh, one unit got all messed up. Oh my goodness. Like, I'm not going to be able to, I can't handle it. That's going to put a lot of stress because you're going to be counting every penny and trying to figure out what's going on with it. And that's understandable because it takes a lot to save to that amount of money, and to trust one person or one deal with that. Like, Oh, I see. That's what insurance for. Yeah, but you don't get insurance for investing passively in somebody else's deal. You have to sign waivers. You have to sign the private placement memorandum and all that stuff, because every investment, it carries inherent risk. And you have to sign off that you are aware that you can lose all of your money. So that's where I'm kind of getting with the private investment portion of that. And so my strategy and my idea really is to open up any of the investments of multifamily that I am actually a GP on and control, open it to smaller capital minimums so that more people can enter. And then at some point, I also want to start a fund where that more people, even at smaller minimums than that, can enter and really start getting their feet wet and learn. So the other thing that I kind of have been, I guess, debating with myself is that opening a fund, yes, that's helpful, and people can invest with like 5,000 or 10,000 or even less than that, depending on how you set up your fund. But is $5,000, like, is 10% return on $5,000 really going to change somebody's life? No, it's not. But the main purpose of that is to change your mindset. And once your mindset changes and you're comfortable risking $5,000 and you learn about the process and you learn how these deals operate and what's going on behind the scenes and the tax benefits and all these other things, then your mindset can shift. And once your mindset can shift, now you're open to a whole world of new possibilities, and you can actually start to save that money, roll it over, roll it over, roll it over. You don't save to save, you save to invest, because no one can save their way to wealth, right? You have to invest that money and start getting it to work for you behind the scenes when you're not working it, because no one has enough hours in the day to work enough to get their own capital to that point. Like saving, you either have to invest it, start a business, anything. But even starting a business is investing it. You're investing it in the business. So money has to be invested. It has to have motion in order to grow and expand. And so that's part of the mission of my company, and my thought process now is really just getting my feet more situated so that I can bring people along, and the people who are ready to come along now while I'm still building up in my journey are welcome. I want the more the merrier. And we're basically just starting to change the world and change the face of wealth. And that is my speed.
Wow. Okay. So, how has COVID, because you talked about it a little bit, but how has COVID changed your business for the better?
It actually it created my business basically, because I didn't even start really sitting and thinking about how I could formulate, the business model and my mission and my vision statement and all that until we were already way into COVID. Madison, honey, mommy's still on the phone, okay? So that kind of created, and I think COVID made networking so much more easier. Like I'm not, it's a struggle for me to network. I'm not a natural networker. And now I am more of a networker. But before, I would force myself, because I felt another thing is you cannot grow until you make yourself uncomfortable. And so I would force myself to be uncomfortable by going to networking events, even if I knew I was going to know anyone there. And I would just sit around and I kind of look and see, all right, who looks friendly enough to kind of step up to and talk to, or I'd see a big group of people and I kind of slide into the big group of people. So I'm just like standing there and I'm like, oh no, don't mind me. I'm just listening in. So I try to fade myself into the mix. And sometimes the times when I really forced myself hard to go to a network event and I really, really didn't want to, those are the times when I met somebody who was just like, wow, I'm so glad I went, because meeting this person was a great connection that I just made, right? So basically, I think, but now that you don't have to plan to leave the house and after work and commuting and doing all this other stuff, it just makes it so much easier, because I know everybody's zoomed out. We're tired of Zoom a lot of times, but so sometimes we have calls, it's just a regular phone call because everyone is tired of Zoom, but at the same time it's so convenient. And now you can do business anywhere because nobody bats an eye at saying, let's hop on a Zoom call. It's like normalized now. So it's so much easier to connect with people and all across the country and the world. I have never in my life had to know what time zone people are in more than I have now. It's just like I'm setting up calls and I'm thinking someone's calling me at 2 o'clock and they're like, oh, it's 12 o'clock here. And I'm like, oh crap, what time zone are you in? Like it's something that you have to always keep on top of your mind. But that makes me feel like Mr. International. Like I feel, oh, I'm worldwide, I'm countrywide, something, because I got peeps in California and Texas and this state and that state. And you know what I mean? So it makes your reach so much larger. So COVID, for the technology and the ability to network with anybody and it be just like a common thing that nobody is paying attention to or nobody cares that you're doing a Zoom call, then yes, like that's how COVID helped my business.
Are we beefing in the back? Are we beefing in the background?
Beeping? No, that's my baby calling. Oh, they're not beefing, no. She's just saying, mom, mom, mom.
Oh.
Yes. Oh, because you know what? She wants to put she has a PJ mask. Oh, you guys can't see it because I got my green screen on. But she has a PJ mask cape, a superhero cape, and she's yelling at me to tie it on her. So that's
okay. Well, that's important right there. It's important right there.
Yeah, it is very important. Got superhero kids.
Well, you was on Mr. International's meetup already. So, you already made it to the big time already.
I know.
So I'm open to questions from attendees, questions. But what? Okay, I talked about how you're impactful on LinkedIn and how you inspire people, and I think your story is impactful and inspiring already. But what have you seen with just the posts you put out there, the feedbacks you get from people for the things that you put on LinkedIn and social media?
It's really like it's really like proof of concept, just like social proof, right? And I've seen people do reach out to me in my DMs and my direct message and whatever, and they schedule calls and they say, I'm interested in what you're doing, your progress. I'd like to connect. I'm in such and such field or whatever the case is. So the amount of calls that I get from people interested has definitely been increasing. And then sometimes certain information and posts that I put out, are more impactful than others. But I get good feedback all around just because it's a lot of mindset stuff and even like information. I try to put a lot of like practical knowledge or things that are topics that people may pay attention to, but it is easy to miss if you're not, aware of it. So just trying to put those kind of things in out there as I learn them and as I come across information, I try to share it, as much as possible, as immediately as possible, just so that other people who are in that same process of maybe trying to build a portfolio or learning about multifamily, they know things to look out for and they don't get tripped up, So I do get good feedback from all of that. Madison, I am on oh my gosh, Daddy.
Live TV right here, guys.
This is my life all the time. I'm on Zoom calls. It doesn't matter what I'm doing, where I'm at. They're always in the background, just swirling around me. They're 1 and 3, so they still are in that stage where I need mommy all the time. And so, yes, I know you guys. I don't even have to repeat it because you guys all heard what she screamed into the microphone. No, don't touch it. Let Daddy do it.
I love this. I love this right here. See,
it's just real life. This is real life. Trying to build a business, deal with Zoom calls, like have everybody know about your baby's poopy diaper in the middle of a call. Like this is just what you got to do. And you know what is going to be crazy? Like it's hard now. Madison, you have to stop screaming. It's hard now, but when they get a little bit older and they're a little bit calmer, I feel like there should be no reason that I don't catapult because I'm gonna be like, it's so quiet in here. Like I'm just gonna be able to get stuff done like this. Because right now, how not like time blocking and all that kind of stuff, that doesn't work for me because I'm still working my full W-2. When I come home, it's like I work longer hours during the day, so I get home, it's like 7, almost 8. I'm trying to hurry up and grab something to eat, but most of the time they're running to me as soon as I come into the door, and they need something to eat. It's because they told daddy before they wasn't hungry, but now that mom's home, they're hungry, you know? So there's this, all those things. And then I'm also like on Zoom calls. So there's so much. It's just like, I can never plan that, like, oh, from 8 o'clock to 8:29, I'm going to do this activity. I really cannot, I cannot schedule my time that strictly. Like, it's just, these are the things I want to get done today. Whenever I have blocks of time, then I see that's a little bit slower, then I'll do what I can do. And I have to, it's very hard. I have to, because I always put too much on my plate. I always want to get done more than what my timing allows, because there's so much things that I want to do and I want to accomplish. So giving myself grace is a huge learning experience. And I employ a lot of people to just please do that in your process. Everybody's process and journey is different. And when things happen, you have to be able to give yourself grace. And as long as you are focused on small movements, needlepoint movements each day, if you can just do, if you have 10 things on your list, but you only got done one, that's a success, right? You did something that day, like you moved the needle forward. And at the end of a year or the end of a few months or whatever, you'll be able to turn around and say, oh, wow, I actually did way more than I thought I was doing. Because in the moment, it doesn't feel like a lot, but it adds up.
So, usually it's either kids in the background or you're on the subway.
That's my life.
I got two teenagers now. I saw your thing when you put Edmund. I got a 15-year-old and 14 or 15-year-old. So my 15-year-old, he's in the back on his phone now. So when they get older, they don't worry about all this stuff. Now they just want to chill now. So we just came out from the gym. He's in there just he came and get some chips, and now he's back in there doing whatever he's doing. With my 14-year-old.
Oh, no. Oh, don't get us twisted. They're 1 and 3 going on 30 and 33.
Oh yeah. I
So
know
that's
about that. Like my kids are 11 months apart, so I definitely understand where you're coming from. So, but look, let's. All right, I got one more question for you. So on Clubhouse, and I'm gonna give you a shout out, Claudia Long Grace say. Now you came on as Mrs. I didn't know who Mrs. was, but when you came on my Clubhouse room yesterday, it went from like 0 to 100. Like all of a sudden, people start coming on there, and we start having the best conversation. I was ready to actually close the room up. And just to let you guys know, when Nicole came on there, and she started talking, we just started having a lot of people come to the room. We talked for another almost 2 hours when she came on there. And matter of fact, I got her a connection. So now she found somebody that she's going to do an Airbnb course with because something interests her.
You really just catapulted that to a whole nother level. Who said we were doing a course? Okay, I guess we're doing a course now.
Yeah, that's what y'all doing a course, or y'all going to get together and do that?
Well, we're going to try to do STR. How am I make a course? I haven't done that one STR yet. STR, short-term rental, basically Airbnb, that kind of thing. So I want to learn how to do short-term rental before I can sell a course on it.
Well,
all right, that's okay. That's okay, Aaron. You're super gracious. You just throwing the compliments left and right, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, I'm saying you look at Tamara's, look at her, Tamara's, look at her site. I think she has that covered. So I think you guys will be in good hands, but I just like how you resonate people. And I remember when I first became your friend on LinkedIn, I was like, at times I was the only person like giving you a thumbs up. Now it's like droves and droves of people starting to just every time you post something, I see all the people starting to give you a compliment. So I think one thing about you is that the consistency that you had, because you kept on giving free content out to people, free articles about what you read out. And now you're starting to see a lot of people starting to comment every time you post out on there. So I just love your consistency in what you have done. You didn't get
appreciate that.
Yeah, you only got one person saying something to you, So
I mean, maybe it's just you see the posts that happen to be popular because those ones get pushed. Because I do get posts like Aaron's trying to make it seem like, everything I touch is gold, and I'm working on that. But I do get the posts that don't get, they get like one or two things or nothing. Well, not really nothing as much anymore, but I get a post that have like a couple of likes, but then I have some that do blow up and get pushed out to masses. And you know what? It's just, I'm just trying to share information and spread it out there and change people's mindsets and get people to implement. I actually talked to a couple people about the whole banking on your life policy. I sent them a bunch of videos and resources that I had. And I had a girl actually call me back and say, "Oh, this is the best information I ever heard. Like, how come I didn't know about this?" She went right away. I love implementation. She went right away and opened up a policy and told her sister, and her sister opened up a policy. So those are the types of feedback that I love getting, because I feel like, oh my God, something that I shared with somebody, they actually implemented it and it's actually helping them. It's helping their life. And like, that's the kind of stuff I love to hear, is that, something I told somebody, I didn't make it up, but I just shared the information that I had and they actually took that and did something with it. So that's gratifying. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, is because I want to change people's lives. So if anything I ever share with you, you actually implement and it helps, please let me know, just because it makes me feel good about myself.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And before I open it up, I would just say this. Um, for my military guys out there, uh, I said this on the meetup. I've said this on Clubhouse, but really encourage your fellow military people to use a VA loan for their benefit. So only 15% of all veterans use their VA loan. That's very, very low number, and we need more people to really advocate for that, because we have too much of a housing shortage, and more veterans can use their VA loan. I know that sometimes it can be a little, not everybody is really relative, especially realtors are really keen to the VA loan, but it's still a powerful asset you can use. I don't care what market you were in. So I'll open this up to questions for attendees. So anybody has a question for Nicole, please ask. Claudia, matter of fact, Claudia, since our resident, our Mr. 1031 is in here, go ahead, Claudia, right with the DPS.
Well, hi Nicole. Thank you for being here and sharing your story. And it's always awesome seeing another woman, in the field. So that's so great. Thank you. Just about kids, I wanted to share something. So I have a 4 and a 6-year-old. And oh my gosh, yeah, they can be, something sometimes when they get their minds. We can't control them. But I heard a really good thing, a really nice quote the other day saying that when people were asked what was their happiest time in their life, a lot of people, like a majority of people, said when their kids were little. Like when they were little, that was the happiest time in their lives. And you don't think about it when you're in, weeks of it. You're like every single day dealing with them because I'm home with them. It's like, oh my God, this is overwhelming. But like this is the happiest we'll remember our children when they were little. So let's try to enjoy it and tolerate like the things that happen. But thank you so much for sharing your story. The question that I have for you is with your real estate journey and the obstacles that you encounter, especially at the beginning, right? And real estate can be hard. You do hear a lot of the success stories, but then there are all these obstacles and things that happen. How did you propel forward and continue? Was it because you were connected to networks, you knew people? Was it because of the education, like you knew there was something to real estate, like time and time again, all the books about real estate? Was it just you knowing that this was going to work out? Like, what was it exactly? Like, kept you just going forward?
It was a great question. Thank you for that. I definitely know that I have to be present in the moment and enjoy them now, because it's just, it changes, and then they don't want to be around mommy anymore, and then I'm gonna cry. But anyway, but it was a combination of all those things. Like, one, I think the strongest thing is faith. Um, and faith in a lot of things, not just religion faith. I do have faith in God, but faith that it would work. Faith that the people who I was listening to and going to all these meetups and conventions and whatever, and the faith of in their stories, because they didn't all start big. They had a beginning too. And so that journey, like when they were in their beginning stages and what they had to endure, just like I had faith that they were telling me the truth. right? I had faith that they were telling the group the truth, and just from multiple, because I listened to multiple people and presenters and people who are experienced now in the field. And that was before I was in any kind of group or mentorship or program. That was just from going to meetups and going to 3-day seminars and boot camps and things of that nature. From hearing the information, even from that very first 3-day seminar that I went to, I just, I knew it was possible. And so in my head, I think I don't quit. And that's just like a trait that I have about keeping moving forward, and just like, another personality trait that I have is like things, they bother me, but I'm not I don't dwell on stuff. Like if something happens and something bad is happening, or goes on, or I encounter a roadblock or something like that, it may not even be healthy, so don't say this is how you should handle bad situations. But I tend to, like, I can't function if all I'm going to do is sit and think about this bad thing. Like, how can I move forward? How can I even go on with my day? There's so many things that happen in life in general, that, like, if I just sit and focus on the negative that's happening in my life, how can I even function enough to, like, get up? What's my focus, to my motivation to even get out of bed in the morning, right? Like, how am I gonna, I see somebody down the street and they do a joke, and I, like, am I gonna laugh because it's funny, or am I just gonna fake laugh because I'm still hurting inside from something else that really happened? So I think the more that you hold on to negativity and bad things that happen, the more it poisons, like, your inside, your mind, your body. And it's true that emotional reactions can cause physical implementation, or physical, like, reactions from within your body. Because you can have something where, somebody dies and then you feel sick, right? You literally feel sick. And so those are things that, like, I think the mind is super strong and powerful, and especially connected to what happens internally in your body and how you function as a person. So the only way for me to be able to continue to move forward just with daily life, forget trying to build a business or doing anything else, is just to, like, all right, that happened, push it to the back. There's nothing I could do to change it. So that's how I handle it. Sometimes, after you push a bunch of things to the back, that builds up if you don't learn how to emotionally, like, deal with it and confront it. So, sometimes you do have to do that. I'm no psychiatrist, but I know that's just what works for me. But in that case, it makes me be able to just handle things and move forward, because I just put it behind me and I don't keep focusing on it and dwelling on it. And that, combined with the faith that I just have, and I always thought I had grit, and I know Mr. International, he knows about it from the last presentation I did, is that there was a book that I always wanted to read. And so after I did a presentation earlier in the year, and I was comparing how I got through all the bad, like the obstacles, and how do I keep pushing forward, it's just like, I just have grit. And I don't know where it comes from. Maybe it comes from my mom and seeing her work hard and work 3 and 4 jobs growing up, and just, like, having to provide for, 5 kids. I have a big family. And my dad couldn't work because he was on disability. So that kind of thing, I just saw that keep going, no quit attitude. So maybe that's what is, I think it's just a combination of that, and just, I don't know, just growing up and life circumstances. And that's how I can emotionally handle things, is just by kind of not focusing on the negative and looking forward to what is the end goal and the positive. And honestly, I think it's also a little bit of naivety. Like, I think I didn't know how long this real estate journey was going to take. So I kept going because I'm like, oh, another year, 2 years, I'm going to be good. If I just keep doing what I'm doing, it's going to take a while. But a while in my head, a while is relative, right? A while in my head was like 2-3 years, maybe. Then I could quit my job and I'd be living free on the beach and this and that. I'm still not living on nobody's beach. I don't even like the beach. Why is that even in my vision statement? So yeah, but yeah, I think it was also the grit, the how I handle situations, and the fact that I didn't know how long it was going to take.
Thank you.
I'm not crazy about beaches either. And you'd never guess
Nice.
by the fact that my beard is red.
Yeah, I'd much rather be in a hot tub by a pool than the
Yeah,
beach.
I
I don't like the
actually this
sand.
this fake view here, that's actually outside my last apartment in Taiwan. I lived there for 15 years, and it is hot. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm using the wrong input. I can't beat myself out. Actually, the last time I did that, that was, yeah, Aaron, you know where I'm going here. Last time
Mhm.
I actually missed it. It was pretty scary. I got this little beep out thing for when I curse. And if I really lean into one and the beep doesn't work, it's super awkward. But what can you do? Let's see. Is this set up right yet? Yeah, because what I said is like, oh my god, I still haven't even said yet. You know,
Oh, I
and
like that.
whoa, yeah, you guys probably know it was Leslie, Leslie, with who helps with the toilet. She can install, her company can install 40 to 50 a day. It's just, I couldn't even believe that. You know, when I heard that number, I'm like, okay, that's a game changer. That means it's like, don't even think about hiring your own GC or plumber to do that. You know, just get it through her. But
Nice.
okay, so
Oh man.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Hi, Nicole. So, thank you for your story. I loved hearing your experience, and I can relate to a lot of it, especially the mother part and trying to balance everything. I have three of my own, 6, 8, and 10. So, I'll just tell you that they don't get quiet when they get older. So had to tell you the truth. Sorry.
Thanks for
Mine are
that.
tied up in the back, so that's where that's from. But I just wanted to ask, like, hearing your story and how you're progressing, I'm curious to see what your future goals are, because I relate to you in terms of trying to help, people who are not necessarily open or have the experience or the ability to be where we are in our spaces, get more of people like us there. But I'm curious as to that aside, your own personal goals in terms of with multifamily or with real estate in general, like where do you see yourself, or what is your, not necessarily your ultimate goal, because I'm sure it changes, but what are you looking towards and what you're trying to do?
Okay. I actually have been thinking about development a lot more nowadays. An idea that came to me was doing development in previously redlined areas, and bringing Black dollars into that. So it would basically be like I'm affecting change on both sides of the coin, like the residents in areas where there has not been a lot of development and things happening there, and they're still maybe living in food deserts or housing shortage. Well, there's housing shortages everywhere in the country, but you know what I mean? Like there in certain areas that have been ignored and maybe are starting to uptick, but they need a little bit more attention. So if I can develop buildings there, or at least purchase multifamily there and redevelop warehousing or whatever it is to create housing and bring attention and more amenities and housing and better housing situations to those types of neighborhoods, and also raising money from a lot of minority dollars, so that and on the investor side, they're creating generational wealth and building that up, but then also I'm impacting the living situation of people who aren't even at that stage to kind of be on the investment side. So that is a goal that I had. Also trying to think of other ways to help my community get that cash flow increase and get that income started, so that they're not living, because when you're living paycheck to paycheck, you can't even think about investing, right? You're counting pennies, like you're trying to make it to the next payday, so get groceries and spreading things out. Like I've lived paycheck to paycheck for years and years and years. I just a couple of years ago have stopped living paycheck to paycheck, where I don't have to count every last dollar to the next paycheck. But I want people to get out of that. So maybe it's not only having them invest passively in deals. Maybe there's other ways for me to impact the cash flow in the pockets of people, because then once they get loose with that, now they can start thinking about building. But you got to get out of that dirt first, right? So some of that is just I've met so many people with just building business credit and personal lines and other things that can really help people get some capital and maybe employ that into the short-term rental idea. I was thinking maybe if I get a small multifamily building and some of those units I save for students or people who want to do short-term rental, but they, are trying to get a landlord who's okay with it. Now that I'm already a landlord who's okay with it, like I'm letting you do it and I'm going to help you through the process by being hands-on and actually letting you use one of our units. You still got to pay us rent, but maybe it's a little bit less or something. But it's a win-win all around, because now you get the experience of running your business and building it up, and I can show people and handhold them through, and maybe that's a model that can be spread across the country into other areas. But that would definitely help people with that monthly paycheck, and making that so it's not as tight. So yeah, there's just so many different ideas I've played with in my head, but ultimately I would like to own a big yes, baby. I would like to own a big portfolio of units and educate, as much as possible. So whether that means I'm doing speaking engagements, whatever, I have a learning platform, something that just makes it access easier for people who normally are denied access because you don't make a certain amount of money. So that's some of the ideas I'm playing with. And every day, every conversation I have, I basically hone that in a little bit further and a little bit more each time. So it's an ever evolving idea and plan for the future. What? You want more juice?
If I can, I'd like to go next.
Yes, please.
My next question there. Well, it's actually a question. Last time was more of a whatever. But I've been working on the digital and the legal side of basically crowdfunding for multifamily commercial real estate deals and all that kind of stuff. It's really, really icky. Basically, here's the lay of the land. Okay, like you can't actually advertise unless you have a 506c, and then you can only advertise to millionaires. So that basically means if you're talking to strangers, okay, and getting them to invest, you got to get them to lie for you. If the SEC really gets involved, if they're really total strangers and you're just, like basically you can't be giving offers to them, because you have to know their level of sophistication. You have to, like, just the same as like you can't sell a scratch ticket to somebody who's under 18. You can't take investment money in a real estate deal unless like they know what they're getting into to some degree. Yes. And so what I've got on the go, the branding I'm going for, it's 506BME. So it's not built yet, but it's 506b.me, and I also got 506bme.com. But the idea is that I want to get a community of investors to post videos of themselves, and just like a dating site, allow or disallow certain people from access to it. But basically in the video that's inside your profile, you satisfy all of the requirements of a pre-existing relationship. In other words, you say, this is what I'm looking to invest. This is my tolerance for risk. This is my buy box, if you're talking about what the multimillionaires use. But that's what I'm up to, and I think that working with you would be really awesome with that. So I'd like to connect. So I'll hit you up with LinkedIn if that's a good way.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great idea. And yes, I do know those limitations, which is another reason why going down the path that I'm choosing is the more difficult path. Because if I'm looking to raise from people who are oh, my thing just died. You guys can hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Well, headset's gone. But yeah, so I basically a difficult path because advertising publicly would be easier, right? And then I can get all the rich people with money who just gonna put it somewhere for tax reasons, because that's the main concern, right? But I know that my people are not accredited for, not all of them, but the majority percentage wise are not accredited. So I know I have to have that pre-existing relationship. And the funny thing is, they don't actually say what the requirements are for a pre-existing relationship. So it's really up to interpretation, and you have to be very careful, because there could be something you could think, oh, I have one phone call, so that's a pre-existing relationship. If something happens and the SEC decides to rule against you and that's not a pre-existing relationship, then you're in big trouble, right? So they don't actually outline what pre-existing relationship really means and how many touch points that is. But I think going in that route and having that, like that dating site where at least maybe you first connect and then maybe you have a few more touch points or something like that, that is a good idea, I believe. And then people who don't know where to go to even find people who are investing in real estate, because I've had calls and I tell people this information, like, make sure, I want you to learn and get comfortable with how like an offering looks. So if you see any offerings that are advertised, just know those are for accredited only investors. You know, if you're not accredited, you're not going to be able to invest in that. And the only way for you to do that is to get a relationship or get on somebody's email list and have phone calls with them. So you're going to have to like look into these multifamily groups and find people who are posting about multifamily and basically like take that, see who's answering questions, see who's an operator, and reach out to them. You have to, if you want to invest, you're gonna have to be proactive and do that, to find the people and let them know that you're interested in passively investing and establishing that relationship and kind of following their content and their information and see if it resonates with you or how you feel about them as a person, because you're dating the person more so than the deal. There's a lot of deals out there that kind of give about the same returns, give or take, but you're in there for 5 to 7 years, if not longer. So you have to make sure you trust that operator, right? So that's why it's still a people person, a people business. You want somebody who's experienced or has like a crew around them of experienced people, and you can trust that they're going to get the job done, right? So yes, thank you, Dan, for pulling up that point, because that's super important for people to realize that any like advertised deals are not going to be for unaccredited investors. The other thing about sophisticated investors that I do like though is that either you individually have to know the merits and have enough information to be able to see if a deal qualifies, or if you think that's a good deal, to be able to analyze the merits of a deal, or you have to have a representative who can analyze and see the merits of the deal. And what that says to me is like, you could have a financial advisor, or you have somebody who's in the multifamily space, like another syndicator, but they cannot be connected to the syndicator who's running your deal. So, or the deal that you want to invest in. So there has to be that like arm's length type of thing. Like you can't have somebody who's running the deal also be your advisor, right? So, but if you find somebody who's a financial advisor or somebody who's in multifamily real estate and they know how to underwrite deals and you trust them to kind of guide you as to whether a deal is good or not, they can be your buyer representative.
Yeah, we definitely have to catch up. You know, I was responsible for building the websites forums, you know, yeah, my uppy downy thing's going.
Oh, you know what? Hold on. Speakers. Talk again.
Okay, check 1 2.
No.
Check 1 2. Check. Okay.
Hey, Dan.
I think when I took my headset off, it messed up something.
We need some waiting music or something.
Okay, someone talk now.
Check 1 2. Yeah, you just muted yourself. Okay, so what you need to do is you need in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, there's a little speaker microphone. Well, I guess you can't hear shit, so what am I explaining it for?
No, I can hear it.
Friendly family. Come on, Dan.
Sorry. I'll be on my best behavior from now on, man.
Sorry to you. I know you got kids in the background.
Fine, they're not paying attention to me right for the next 2 seconds.
You hear us now, Nicole?
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay. Yeah.
All right.
I already forgot what I was going on about anyway. So,
anybody you had one more question for us before we go to the roll call and breakout rooms? One more question for Nicole? Okay, so
come on, people. All right. Well, that's because I didn't get into enough details for you to know all the problems I went through. Sorry. Go ahead, Desmond.
Can you hear me? Okay. So you created a holdings, right? And so you're investing from your holdings with a partner into an LLC, correct? Okay. And when you do the refinancing, everything, do you and the partner with the LLC have a end out or a time frame, 10 years, or are y'all going to reach a certain plateau and sell? What is the plans with that?
The plan right now is a forever hold. Like neither of us have said, oh, we want to exit in 10 years or however. It's basically forever. We did put some stipulations into our operating agreement
Right.
as to if one person wants to sell and the other doesn't, how are we going to figure out the value so one person can buy out the other person, and that kind of wording to kind of figure out, you know, it's probably based on whatever market value is at the time if somebody wants to sell, and then we'll kind of figure out, you know, whatever our equity is, and then have to do like half of that to pay off the other person.
So after refinancing, your holding company gets to disperse the money the way it wants to because it's in your holdings company. And then if you want to do another deal with that person in a different LLC or in the same LLC, buying something else, you do have that freedom as well.
Yes.
Because y'all might do another deal.
We might do another deal. I am working with other people as well, probably more actively with other people in finding deal flow and trying to do direct to seller in the market. But if there was another deal that came up with that same partner, I would definitely consider that again. But yeah, once we refi, the money will go from the LLC that actually owns the property into half into my holdings company LLC and half into his LLC. And then from there, if I want to buy another property, even if it's with him or with somebody else, we'll always open another LLC to actually own the property. And my holdings company is just a member of that LLC.
Thank you. Thank you so much for clearing that. Great.
All right. So thank you, Nicole. And thank you for being a guest speaker on here. You're more than welcome to stay for breakout rooms and after party. Okay, so 2 things. I just want to announce that in the month of October will be all women's. Just like the month of April, all women speakers. And then right after that, I'm gonna have Kim Lisa Taylor in November as a guest speaker to talk about capital raising legally, as her book says. So I just talked to her this week, and so she's excited about being on the meetup. So we got some great guests coming up. And also, if you guys, anybody who's interested in investing into deals, as far as money and things like that, I have a couple of deals that's on the table. So that got presented to me this week. So if you guys are interested, please let me know and we can have a talk afterwards and I can present you the deals. And I'm gonna go briefly in a roll call, just say a couple. One thing I'm gonna shout out is the GOB network. I for some reason, when I do my introduction, I don't include the GOB network, even though I'm a proud member of the GOB network. So I have to do a better job of that, but I'm always hardcore about the GOB network and the association that is brought to me. And you know, I will always shout out the GOB network to anybody. So if you guys are looking for free information, great networking, great meetups, please sign up for the GOB network. And you need an invitation. And I am one on this meetup to invite you to be a member of the GOB network. Doesn't hurt to be a member at all. I know Shamil was on here, but Make Real Estate Real. That's another great group that you can join. It's only a $1,000 course, and it goes A to Z in real estate. Biggerpockets.com is another great website to go to, and you get tons of information. ADPI, Active Duty Passive Income, another great organization for military association, military affiliated real estate group that you can join. Everybody's military, I recommend ADPI or the Royal Room Mastermind Group, which me and Claudia are part of, and others. Great program. And White Feathers, which I'm gonna have Buddy Rushing, one of the founders of it, as a guest speaker in the near future. So whitefeathers.com is another military affiliated real estate group. Okay, so if you have to go, Now is the time. We're going to breakout rooms. What we do is we have 2 breakout rooms back to back, and then we go right to the after party. So thank you again, Nicole. As you see, she's put information in the chat, so please get a hold of her. I'm happy to see some of our Nicole, some of our Clubhouse people that we saw yesterday is on here. So thank you guys for coming to the meetup. This is every Thursday at 7 p.m. So let me stop recording.